Welcome to the Protector Culture Podcast with Jimmy Graham. Jimmy is a veteran U.S. Navy SEAL, a former protective officer for the CIA Global Response Staff, founder and CEO of the Able Shepherd Program, a husband and father of 4, and a personal friend of mine. Now here's Jimmy.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Protector Culture Podcast with Jimmy Graham. I'm your host, Jimmy Graham. Joining me again, BK051, Able Shepherd 051 in the house. And how you doing, brother?
I'm doing awesome. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. And we have a special guest. So the Able Shepherd Operations Manager, the one and only Melissa Papulius. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Sure thing.
So today we're going to kind of do an overview of the Able Shepherd program. Here's what's going on. We've got, our world is changing. We all know that. We're kind of feeling this thing in the air. We say we don't teach a new thing. We teach an old thing. That take care of one another isn't something we made up. We just equip people to do that better. We have an influx of people that are reaching out to us, I think because of the circumstances, because of many things, but a lot of times it's not immediately. It's kind of a long sell. Can you kind of walk us through what's going on right now?
Sure. You know, I reach out to people. We follow up on the Protecting Our People course and just kind of, check to see how the course was, if this is something you want to continue with. And what we're finding is I get these calls and people are like, hey, you left me a message a year ago or 6 months ago, but I'm interested now. I want to start the program. What do I need to do to get started with the program? And my answer is always like, I'm so happy you called. We welcome you back. Because again, that POP class is that prerequisite, but some people, they need that time to think about it. But also it's, great to hear from them again, knowing like, I want to come back. So getting them started, again, you start with the POP as a prerequisite. Once you've done that course, then you are able to start the phase section of the program. And really, what does that entail? It entails those 4 classes. Mm-hmm. And each are a different level of instruction and curriculum covered in each one.
So phase 1, 2, 3, and then 4, we'll break those down a little bit further. In a nutshell, when we develop this, we don't use this as readily now, but the instructors we talk about, phase 1 in a nutshell, so uniform, safe, and accurate. That's our standard, the USA standard, uniform, safe, accurate. If you don't, you must have that. Any kind of success, any kind of tactical organization. We talk about skills, how to shoot a gun, tactics, how to use a gun to go save my daughter, like employ the skill. That's how we define tactics. So you must be uniform, you must be safe, you must be accurate. Uniform, same page, safe with a firearm, accurate under stress for time. So when we say the POP makes you uniform, safe, and accurate, a lot of people are in this industry. They're really not in the industry, is the way I put it. They're in a similar industry that involves firearms, but they haven't got uniform, safe, and accurate, and we've never talked about protection. You've talked about shooting a gun, but when we're talking about protection, that doesn't mean law enforcement. It doesn't mean marksmanship. It means protection. There's principles that must be understood. So BK, as we walk through this, feel free to chime in on experiences that you've seen, what you've felt, kind of struggles, any of that stuff, because I'd like to just go through. It's complex. When you look at the phase schedule, it's sitting right over there. It's a lot. You look at, I can't even imagine seeing that with new eyes because we know it inside and out because we've lived it and we've built it and it's tweaked and it's grown and it'll continue to grow. When I see something in the student's eyes saying we need another thing, we get together with instructors like we need to add another class because something needs to be thinned out or whatever. But what the phase schedule is a formula. How do you get people with varying experiences to advanced training, to what I consider advanced, and that's the phase schedule.
And the thing I like about it is it's building blocks, and it, in a way, breaks everybody down to a common denominator. You must start here with POP in terms of here's the movements, here's the words, maybe here's some hand strikes without a weapon because you may not be there yet. And then you're building on the uniform, safe, and accurate with what I would call relatively static pistol drills. Mm-hmm. You're standing in one place, you're working on your safety, you're working on your accuracy. Once you've tested out of that, you've displayed the safety, the accuracy, the uniformity, you can now move into a more dynamic type of environment where you're now moving with a pistol because you've proven, you know what, standing in one place, I'm very safe and accurate.
So I started to say this is with the instructors, we don't use it much anymore, but we call phase 1 pistol static. Very basic movements, very ease into it, keep it safe, and introduce this. You pass a test to get into phase 2. We call that pistol dynamic. It's time to start moving around with a firearm with other people. That's both live fire and engaging real people with non-lethal training rounds, just like the elite levels within this industry, right? Within the protection, CIA, SEAL teams, SWAT teams, all that, they all use simunition. It's one of the best tools there is to prove this point. Another test that's called Protector puts you into phase 3, which is AR. The AR platform, it's an enhanced capability. The capability offers you more than a pistol would, right? And a lot of these places, you're seeing these active shooters coming in with something more than a pistol. You're going to need that to be able to counter that effectively if they are a matched skill set. So then you take the phase 3 test that gets you into Able Shepherd. So to that Able Shepherd coin in your pocket, we had to draw a line in the sand and say, what is advanced? As we know, everything on there is advanced training, everything. But what does Jimmy Graham consider? You just stepped into advanced. That means you've got that coin. You have an enhanced capability with a primary and a secondary. That means a rifle and a pistol. And you're ready to do this responsibly. So that's in a nutshell, and we're going to dive a little bit deeper.
Yeah, just to elaborate a little bit more on your talking about the POP, we always say that POP builds the foundation of the skills to lead you into the other course level classes. So let's get started on phase 1. We call phase 1 century level.
Yep.
It's a sequence of 4 classes that can be taken in any order. Let's talk a little bit about the RBT, or the Intro to Reality-Based Training. What is a little bit about that course, and what can you expect from that course?
So you mentioned the POP, so if I could just real quick start with that. The foundation means, what does that mean? It means we're not talking about firearms. We're talking about we need to back up to how do you stand? How do you stand? How do you move? How do you create a defensive posture with your lower body, then your upper body, but we're still on defense? Then we're going to transition in how do you strike. You must go offensive. Part of carrying a firearm legally concealed is defending it. If you can't keep it, if somebody knocks you out and takes your gun, that's bad. You didn't add to society, you detracted, because they now have your firearm. So you need to know how to defend your firearm that's on your body. Then we're going to take you through basic safety and marksmanship, and then we're going to put you in a scenario. And I know it's a lot. I just had a class tonight that was a lot going on. That's how fast these things happen. So we give them a snapshot of the thing that we're heading into, and it sinks the hook. Some people, it freaks out, and they're like, wow, that was a lot. Other people say, where have you been all my life? I've got some work to do. And then they're in. So we enter into phase 1. You mentioned the Intro to RBT, or Intro to Reality-Based Training. Many people, their hair's blown back by the POP. They're a little intimidated, so we need to slow things down. They come in this room. We set up chairs. There's 2 classes where Jimmy Graham starts in a chair, any instructor, and we just answer questions. What kind of firearm? People buy firearms. They spend thousands of dollars on firearms. They come in, they're the wrong guns. I'm like, oh no. And it doesn't mean they have to get the one that Jimmy likes the best. I'm always going to pick what's best for you. What's going to be maximize your potential and your time with us. You're going to spend time and money with us. I want you to get max forward movement. And some firearms are just wrong for that person. Then they're fighting the firearm and they're wondering why they can't advance as efficiently as the person next to them.
Yeah, I think sometimes people always will call and say, well, what do you suggest, or what do you recommend? And it's a hard answer. To answer that question, it's really hard, because what gun might be working for me or for you is very different to what the next person might use. So we do have what we recommend, but at the same time, we would say talk to one of our instructors, get a little bit of feedback from them, what works for you, what doesn't work for you, and let us help you make those recommendations versus just going out and buying.
Many times people, and I see this, and it kind of makes me sick. You go to a gun store, and they say, well, how does that feel? How does this, and see how this. Next thing you know, you're walking out with $1,000 gun, and you're a beginner. And sometimes it's like, well, you're a lady, you need a smaller gun, or you're a guy, you're small. It's the opposite. You want more control when you start, and that translates to a smaller gun. It doesn't work the other way. So you want to get a control and comfort. Comfort's a thing. It's not the thing. I said, we're not buying socks. Can they actually shoot the gun and perform with it? It isn't all comfort. And there's things you can do to make the gun more comfortable anyways. So to be able to get that, we've landed in a certain area where we've got really it's only a couple firearms that we'd recommend, right? And it's all based on what's going to serve you the best, period. Because I don't sell guns. I recommend them. And we tell them this, use one of ours. If you don't have a firearm, don't go buy one. Yep. If you have one, bring it. We'll take a look at it. We'll see if it's safe. Then by all means, use it. But if you don't, or you don't want to use that firearm, or you're not sure about it, come use one of ours and I'll show you why we recommend that. We require safety, but we do make recommendations. You don't have to buy it. What we do require is safety.
Right.
So if I'm thinking about POP, and you're answering voicemails that maybe you're a year old, why are people calling now? What do you think the interest is?
That's a really great question. I think, a lot is happening from different political things, COVID scares. I think everything with the pandemic has opened up a lot of changes for people. So to be honest, we have a lot of church groups. The churches are in the news a lot more in the last several months, and sometimes they're you're hearing about it, sometimes you're not hearing about it. So at the same time, we always say, we want to help you in the church groups, build those internal response teams, but also schools.
Yeah.
Schools are coming in and contacting us. What can we do? How do we build that internal response team as well? But, today, let alone today, I was talking to a couple church groups, and the funding is always the issue. And we do have our 501c Able Nation that does offer scholarships to the church groups. So, encourage all of our, members that might be on that security team or thinking about being part of the security team or part of a church, like reach out to that church and say, hey, there's funding available. Just reach out to Able Nation.
I think too, there's a trajectory that we're on right now that doesn't land in a good place, and everybody feels it. It's like people are like, I'm anxious. Well, I'm a believer, so I'm good. I am very excited about the new year and excited about my place in it. Right, as a Christian man on this earth, I look at it and say, this is what I was built for. Such a time as this. That's exactly what I've got going on. But it does have my attention. Like if this trajectory and what's going on in our country, people say, well, I'm a little anxious. You should be anxious. If your nation's being dismantled and before your eyes, and your school, your kids are being attacked, and then what they're learning right now, if this doesn't bother you, something's wrong with you. Now, how you deal with it is going to be based on, your beliefs. Like, do you believe in anything? Do you stand for anything? If you stand for something, you should be uncomfortable right now. And then find out your spot in that your role and then get after it. And that's encouraging. That delivers energy. But I say we're on the sugar high from the last one as we launch into the next one. It's not even over yet. The last thing we did, we're like, let's go do that. Okay, and somehow it's working.
It is, yeah.
So also tell me, this is a 2-part story about the boat show.
Oh, jeez.
And then we'll have Jimmy finish it up with the gentleman that walked in.
Yeah.
And tell me about that.
That's a good story.
And that's actually, there's more transpired since then. It's, the boat show. I met this salesman on Sunday when I went back to the boat show. And a super nice guy, his name was JD, answered all our questions, went through the whole process. But Saturday, he goes, well, where's your wife? Well, she's working. Well, what does she do? And then it just all started transpiring. And he heard Christian, he heard Able Shepherd, and then that caught his ear a little bit. And then he's like, this is really intriguing. So I got there Sunday and I'm telling him all about what I do. He's like, I need to come see you. I need to see a walkthrough and all this stuff. And then I have this friend, he's in the Army. He's just getting out, and I think this would be an amazing program for him. So I'm like, okay, let's schedule a time. Here's my business card. Literally on Monday, he's blowing my phone up, blowing the work phone up, and I'm like, okay, let's follow up with JD. And him and his friend Nate, they came a couple days later and met you, and it wasn't even planned for you to be here. You just happened to be here. Parker was here. We had some other people in the
Montana
buildings.
boys.
That's right. Jason was here too, and Chris. So they were here, and we were finishing up some video recording for YouTube. So I asked them, give me a few minutes. And they came in, and literally, it was like their look on their face, their demeanor, everything.
So
and
good.
When you started talking, we just started talking, open conversation, and you could just see in their face like the light bulbs went on, and the questions, and then intriguement. It was amazing.
I literally, the last words out of my mouth was, welcome home, boys.
Yep.
And they were just like, I feel something. I was like, I understand. It was cool. And BK has said these words, like, I just need to be here more.
Yep.
I'll take out the trash. I don't know what it is, but I don't feel it out there, and I feel it here. We had a follow-up with Nathan, his buddy, and we talked, and it was another amazing conversation. He's like, man, I felt something there. And I'm like, and he said, what do you need? Like, is there any possibility for employment? I said, down the road, I told him that whole process. We get to know you, get to know us, make sure it's a good fit both ways, and all the processes that go with that. But he was like, I can't explain it. He talked about, he listened to the podcast. He's like, I've heard BK. That's what I felt. When he left, I looked back. They walked out. I looked at the room. I go, You guys feel that? And then Jason goes, that just happened. I go, that just happened. That was amazing. Because everybody was chiming in and we're just talking about this is what we do. Yep. And he's in transition. So amazing guy. This is JD, amazing guy too. But something compelled him to invite a buddy that's in transition looking for his spot in the world. Like, what am I going to do with my life kind of thing.
Transition from military?
From military. He just got activated National Guard and came back. So I think Iraq. Just came back. I think Arapahoe jail, something like that. He's going to pick up where he left off kind of thing. But he's like, what am I going to, like we all are. Who's the man that I'm going to be starting tomorrow kind of thing. And then he walked in those doors. And he's very honest. I thought I was coming into like a gun club with a training program. I had no idea. So awesome conversation. Good guy.
Yes. Yeah.
Great guy. He was wearing the same shirt as Parker, which is my favorite shirt that I wasn't wearing that day, thankfully, but I wear it way too much. And now we talked about, initial reality-based training is that people want another crack at that scenario. We throw a scenario at them. It happens very fast. And a lot of people are unsuccessful because it happens so fast, right? The shoot, no shoot, just draw and present and fire and all that stuff. And they're not happy with it, but we cut it and we have a conversation. And they're like, give me another shot. That one's over. That's how fast that happens. You have 4 scenarios and now we're on to the next day. Mm-hmm. So when they come into the intro to reality-based training, we need to slow everything down, explain some things, but we do give them another shot at that, saying, you're going to learn to shoot here. We're going to make you very good at that. Equally, actually more important, is you're going to learn how to not shoot. Not shoot a kid, not shoot a teacher, not shoot an innocent person. That's what the industry skipped. Mm-hmm. You can't do that with lasers. You can't do that with the simulators where there's a video game. It's got to be real people. When real people yell at you or physically touch you, like grab, just turn around and give you a little bit of, and something happens and you're ready to kill everybody. And we show them that, and they do. And you're like, okay, we need to work on that. We need to get that out of you. Everybody deserves a half-second assessment.
And I tell you, 4.5 years later, every time I go in my basement, looking both ways, it gets ingrained in you pretty quick.
Little essay, little situation awareness.
Awesome. Okay, so we have 1A, 1B, 1C. So just to elaborate a little bit on the phase program specifically, there's a mixture of sim classes, but also live fire classes.
It's approximately 50-50,
okay.
Meaning that there's more to it than shooting guns. It's not just shooting bullets on a range. That's part of it. Yep. The other part, we're talking tactics, is you have to shoot at real people. I say that, how do you get better at shooting people? Usually real people, right? So it means that training aids, simunition is what it's called, FX in particular, and then we use blanks as well, to get that stimulus so people have to respond. So it's about 50-50 sim, working with real people, and then the other half shooting live to get that real recoil, that full recoil, and shooting for accuracy under time.
Shooting live at paper.
Live at paper, yeah.
Simunition at roll.
They tend to not come back when we really shoot them.
Great. Okay, so a little bit recap here. We have phase 1, we have the RBT, the 1A, 1B, 1C, and then once you take those 4 classes, which can be taken in any order, so depending on your schedule, your availability of when those courses are offered, you then will take a Century phase 1 test.
Yeah, we call it Century. It's just the name of the test. Yep. I didn't know people would like the T word. It affects everybody differently. Yep. You just say test, people get nervous and then start throwing rounds, right? And that's nothing like if you ever have to engage somebody, you're going to be nervous, and we can't replicate that, but we can make you a little bit nervous, get in your skin a little bit, and those can be taken in any order, but they must all 4 be done. Right. So 1A, immediate action drills. What happens when you try to fire and it doesn't work? Tap, rack, reassess. There's different things that will make your gun not fire, and we teach you what to do if and when that happens. 1B, basic movements. Moving with a live fire gun. That's live fire, walking with another person around while you're shooting bullets, and using that periphery to make sure that where they're at, they're not in front of you or your muzzle. It's a big deal, and it kind of freaks people out when they do it for the first time. And then concealed draw with 1C. A lot of people are carrying concealed. They have a card from the state saying they can carry a firearm, and they've never drawn from concealed. That bothers me, right? So they're not comfortable with how their gun works. They've never drawn it from concealed, yet they're carrying, and they have a license saying that they can do that. That's an issue. So we need to revisit that and introduce and guide them how to do that safely and build up that confidence.
Yeah. Quick question. Is it a requirement to have a concealed carry permit to join the program? Or should you consider at least applying so that you have it?
So that's a really great question. There are some changes that are coming with our program, just some things that have come up. Originally, we had said, you needed to do a background check and have a CHP by either or.
Yeah.
Have a CHP or a background check by phase 2. We're in the process of implementing a new requirement that's done to start the program. So not specifically for the POP, Protecting Our People course, but for starting phase 1.
Very simple process. Obviously, we want to be responsible, make sure we're not training bad guys, right? So you're training people and they go rob a bank. That's not good, right? So we want to make sure that we're being responsible. Again, we did that before tactical training, not just basic marksmanship training, before tactical. We feel it's appropriate to back that up and do it early. Do it early on, start that process. It's either, do you have a concealed handgun permit? Cool, we can just take a picture of it, put it on file, and just say you did it. That means the government did a check on you, or you pay us like $7 and do a background check just to make sure that, good faith and again, like we just... I just say we train people in a certain way. I was like, man, can you imagine somebody like breaks in robs a bank and you're watching the news? You're like, wow, they look really good. I think we might have trained those guys. That's horrible, right? We don't want to ever be in that position, but we cannot be treating everybody like they're potential criminals.
Right. So to answer your question, would be not for POP, but starting soon when we. Yes.
Yeah. Back in the day, I feel like I was either asked or I had to upload a picture of my concealed carry.
Yep.
I don't remember it being before I took a class, but speaking of classes, since you handle all the scheduling, 1A, 1B, 1C in general, or each class is offered twice a month in general?
Great question. So in building the schedule, actually each class is offered 3 times, if not sometimes 4 times per month. Wow. So when you're looking at the entire schedule of classes that are offered, each phase level class is going to be offered a minimum of 3 times. And then we have entry drills and some pistol drills, secondary drills, and stuff like that, where they can range from 3 to 4 times per month.
So the reason I bring that up, maybe you can explain the membership component.
Sure.
With the 2 classes per month. And
yeah, so a great time to talk about that for the entry part. So memberships are, we do encourage memberships. That allows a member to take 2 training courses in a 30-day period. So that would be, the membership is $175 a month for a 6-month commitment. Again, that gets you the 2 courses. Now think of it as savings of 50%. So each of those 2 classes are discounted to $87.50. When you take an a la carte or a drop-in course, that's $175 for 1 class. So membership is dropping it down 50% and saving you, that money.
And you do have the opportunity, speaking from experience, you can use your 2 tokens, for lack of a better word, and purchase a 3rd one if you wanted to accelerate
exactly.
your learning.
So a lot of people get excited and they're like, I need more than 2 classes. Great, we offer that. So they'll just pay that drop-in fee, and we do discount it to $100 for drop-ins versus the $175 for a class.
So $175, you do the 6-month commitment. $175 per month gives me 2 2-hour classes, which brings it to $87.50 per class. And for tactical training, that's silly. Like I've heard people say, it's a little expensive. I'm like, it's actually not. You're not going to find tactical training that'll help you defend your family for $87.50 per class. It just doesn't. And that was
2 hours.
And we did
Hang out
that.
with
We
us.
did that. That was the goal from the beginning, is we want to make sure. I had people saying, target rich people, target corporations. We want to always train people to defend their loved ones. Our motto here is take care of one another. Not if you're rich, not if you're a security guard, not if you're a cop. Everybody should know this stuff and have access to it.
Yeah.
Cool. So like I said, I didn't think people would like tests. They love them. They love them. And it's fair. It means if you can't pass the Sentry test, it's not a very challenging test. It's very basic, right? Some people struggle with it. That just means we need a little more attention in phase 1 for them to safely proceed to phase 2, because we're about to go dynamic with the pistol. So then you go into phase 2, and then we start that process. So pistol postures is 2A. To A, B, and C, again, in any order, you must do those 3, and then before you get into entries. So 2A is pistol postures. How do you hold your firearm as, per the distance to the threat, called threat interval. So how do you hold that? A lot of people don't know that. They skip that part. So we need to understand and teach them that. That's a sim class against real people, utilizing real people. Flashlight is 2B. That means either a mounted flashlight or the one in your pocket. A lot of people have never turned the lights off, then click light on, fire, and then move under the cover of darkness. So once you practice that, you realize this is a different skill set, and we need to practice it, right? If you're ever going to do it successfully, because most shootings happen in low to no light. 2C is the stress and 3 of 3. This is, I love these tests, by the way. You guys know it. Is the 3 of 3 is 9 shots, 2 mag changes. So you draw 3 to the body, reload 3 to the body, reload 3 to the body. That continues to get harder the longer you're in it. So it's relatively easy when you start, showing that you know how to manipulate that firearm safely, right? Then in phase 2, it's a moderate time. 1 moderate time. Phase 2, a little bit faster. Phase 3, faster yet, right? So it's an excellent test. In stress, you have to shoot and move. So using 5 bays, shooting, moving, safely maneuvering, as if you were maneuvering around live teammates. So that's a big deal. Make it through
with
those
accuracy.
3. With that, you can't miss. You cannot miss one round. I mean, they all got to be in the body, varying distances. It's on you to slow down for the harder shots and to speed up for the closer ones in order to make the time. So you do A, B, and 2, A, B, and C in any order, then go into entries. Now, this is where the rubber meets the road. People say, I'm not a SEAL, I don't need entries. I'm not a SWAT team. If there's a bump in the night and you go check on your daughter, you're doing entries. Yep. There's just a right way to do it, right? An efficient way to do it that's going to be safer for your family and more effective for you to come out better off. So that's what we teach. And it's in 3 segments, 3 ETA, ETB, ETC. Once we go through all of those, you've completed the classes for phase 2 and you're ready to take the test for phase 3. We call that Protector. Now the Protector certified test is the national standard. We have drawn that line as a national standard for the nation. If you have a firearm on your hip as a professional or volunteer, you need to know these skills. You need to know how to employ tactics. Because by walking around with a gun on, you're saying you know this. You need to be able to replicate it at any time.
Yep. And
how was your phase 2? Was it?
Oh.
Do you remember? Because you've been around for a minute, man. You've done like the phase 2. You're able shepherd. You're at the higher level. But do you remember those days?
I couldn't gobble it up fast enough.
That's good old days. Revolver, right?
Yeah. Black powder, yeah. I had to pour it in.
Like Danny Glover in Lethal Weapon.
But for me, it was so practical and applicable because of the way our house is laid out. Front door is street level, but the back door, I think they call it garden level. So it opens to a massive field. I said, honey, if they come in, they're coming in that back door right there. So knowing I'm going into a basement, making at least 2 turns, and it's jet black. Okay, I know how to use a flashlight. I know how to hold a weapon. I know how to be aware of what's around me. And then, God forbid, if somebody did run through that back door, we've had that training with a live human being running at you with either hands in the air or blanks coming out. You've done everything you can to prepare for that moment. So for me, it was 100% applicable, and I could just take it home with me right away and say, honey, look what I learned. And she would tease me because I don't use very many words. I'm efficient with my words. But every time I came home from Able Shepherd, she's like, can you shut up?
Hey, cool it, man. Well, I think, too, that those principles we talk about, so just an example of what from the get-go we point out, is one that's borrowed from the GRS, from the bodyguard, if you will. At the elite levels, there's a principle you must understand. To get to them, you have to go through me, right? That should be difficult. And if you know how to handle a firearm, you can stand in front of your children in some kind of emergency and say, to get to them, you have to go through me, and mean it. That's a big deal, and it doesn't require a lot of skill, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a mother, which you were both, or you are a mother, but you were a teacher as well. Yeah. We attract teachers and we hire them for Kate and whatever. But it just means that's so empowering to say, like, I could do this, and you haven't made it to Able Shepherd yet,
right.
But I believe you could do that. I believe you could load a firearm and stand in front of your children, if that front door gets kicked in and, does its job and buys you a couple kicks, and you could say, to get to them, you have to go through me. So the result is I end up at the end of the day with my kids, and you don't.
Yep.
Okay, where were we?
Let's see, we're at Protector test. I was just going to ask, out of the first phase 2, the courses, do you have a favorite? Do you ever go back and repeat a class?
D, all the above. For me, it's the flashlight.
Yes, I love the flashlight.
Because it's, applicable. It's also very challenging. Yeah. Because throughout most of the program, you're taught a 2-handed grip for recoil management, for follow-through. Now you're kind of breaking away from that a little bit. You have to manipulate, for me, a little pocket flashlight.
Yeah.
It just takes some more dexterity, some more practice. Yeah. But like I said, I know if it happens, I need to have that skill right away.
Do you have a favorite class?
Oh man, they're all my baby. I do this. All grown up.
There's really not a bad class in the
There
mix.
is not.
There,
No. And we have.
You know what I've come to appreciate that I really enjoy teaching is Intro to Shoot House. So it's further down. Yeah, obviously it's a little bit later, but so that's the shoot house right over here. Mm-hmm. Going through for the first time, people look up with their eyes like, oh my, and then you break it down, and in one setting they go, I'm starting to see what we're doing here. It's not clear the house, it's clear the room. Then do it again, And when you run out of rooms, you just cleared the house. Yeah. And a light comes on in that class, and you guys know that I'm addicted to that. When a light comes on, that's what keeps me going. Mm-hmm. So when you see that happen in a 2-hour class, you go, I like this one.
And that's one of the classes that you get to see the able shepherds that are progressing through the program too.
Yeah.
Because you're mainly the only one that teaches that class.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that point of contact with able shepherds that are moving up through the program, and you have that point of contact with them.
It's bittersweet, and I just explained this in a class. I did intro to reality-based training the other day. There's 2 intro classes, and if I'm in town, I'm teaching them. And that was by design because I have handed people coins before that have been through the program, and I've never met them before, right? Because we're very blessed to have 5 instructors, many contract, role players and volunteers and all these amazing people. And now it breaks my heart a little bit that somebody can come through the whole program and I didn't teach them, because you're very good about moving me around so I can do different classes and still kind of keep my pulse on this program, but somebody can make it through because we've seen that. So I said, hey, we need 2 more classes anyways. Let's have me teach them. Yep. So now I guarantee that I meet you 2 times at a minimum, and then hopefully even more.
Yep. Good. Okay, we are at Protector Test. I'll say, just because I have that interaction with a lot of the members, it is probably by far the hardest test for our members. What do you think is the hang-ups, or really what's causing people at Protector level to kind of hang up the most?
I wouldn't say they hang up. I would say that there's never been a standard. There's never been a standard for civilians, I don't think, to perform with your firearm. And we don't test as adults. You don't really test where, like after college, you don't really test where you could fail. And we've had people fail a test and we never see them again. That's unfortunate because they're like, oh, I stink and I'm blah, 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 and they're gone. And that's unfortunate. But when you see people work through something, and why would this be natural, by the way? People go like, you're in Protector test is no joke. Yeah. You have to do an accuracy portion. You have to do a 3-3 portion. You have to do a stress for 5 stations timed, and you can't miss 1 round. Mm-hmm. So it's a serious test, but it's exactly what you would need to perform at varying distances. You need to decide, it's a longer shot, I need to slow down, exhale, and make that shot. Or it's closer, I need to make it faster because it's life-threatening. All of this stuff you need to decide in your head. So when you put all that into one test, it's no joke. Then you got to go in the other room and actually do 3 entries safely and engage bad guys. So to think it was going to be easy, it wakes people up and they go, wow. So I say don't race to that test. If something didn't make sense, use your credit. Go back and redo a class that month. Make sure you understand everything. And the people that do that are more successful on their first test. And some people, they never envisioned before 2020 that they would ever own a firearm. So it's not like gun people like we started with back in 2017 when we launched Able Shepherd. We've been around. This would be 10 years in June for Duty to Act. Doing business as Able Shepherd, it's only been 5, right? So on that deal, I'm sorry. So yeah, it's 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 25. Yeah, so 5 years as Able Shepherd, but this will be 10 years as Duty to Act. So I thought my math was messed up. But we used to get gun type people. Now we get everybody.
Everyone.
Like everyone who says, I love my family, I want to know how to protect them, and I don't feel like I'm there. They walk in the front door, and we say, once they meet us, it's different.
It's very different.
And that's one thing I've really appreciated is whether it's a class or the testing, it's almost 50-50 now, male and female. Mm-hmm. It used to be, a lot of guys walking around macho type stuff, and now it's more the family-oriented women, mama bears, that want to take care of their kids.
Yeah.
And they're not ones to mess with.
Yeah.
I have been thrown through walls by little bitty people.
I love when Gail turns it on.
Yeah.
That's like something we should actually record. She comes in, is it 3 dozen cookies? She drops off 3 dozen cookies at each location every Monday, every single Monday, which is why I'm like the peanut butter ones did me in today. It was just ridiculous. But anyways, when she's this tall and she comes in and get out, and with an AR and all that kind of stuff, it's just unexpected, at first, if you don't know her.
Yes.
But if you know her, you're like, that's Gail.
I have to say, she's quite the little ambassador. Her and her group of ladies that meet up at Centennial or other ranges for Girl and a Gun, and they're constantly going to different conferences together. She's just sharing the passion of the program.
And I love it. And if they're like, hey, prove it, she would step up to that line and perform right now.
That's who was in my recall class on Saturday. So
That's
now
awesome.
you know.
Yeah,
now you know.
That's awesome. Let's see. So we're going to continue on with the Intro to Shoot House. Again, we talked about this being one of our newer classes that we do require for our students that are going to be coming over to our 5-room shoot house at headquarters to take, because it talks about really learning the entries and how the rooms work in the back. So talk to us a little bit about that.
So another intro class where people can talk about the current events and what's going on in the news and how that applies to this kind of tactical training, something they heard about with somebody getting involved. We can talk about gear, we can talk about tactics. Anything that they've learned that they have a question on, they get to talk to me about it, and then I receive that as feedback on anything in the program and do we need to tweak anything. And then we take them into the skills that they've learned in pretty much one room over at the other building, but now they're going through 11 entries. So when they go through all the way through and then back out, they're doing 11 entries back to back to back. How does this door open? Who goes through? Who breaks the pause? If you don't have that, that's a t-shirt that we've got. And if you don't know the answer to that, you're going to learn that in the entry classes, right? It's an inside joke, but then it really just kind of, I think it's a big time when their eyes open, they go, man, I could do this. You taught me pieces. Now we're putting them together. I think I see where we're going here. So it's a fun class to teach.
Awesome. So you've now completed protector level and you're looking at moving into phase 3. So phase 3 brings on the AR platform. And then those classes specifically have to be done in order. Can you explain to us why we are requiring those to be in order?
Yeah, so most of the classes we've talked about, any order within that segment, then you can move on. But it wouldn't make sense to do the AR, going over the AR postures and that platform. So we're going to start that first class of 3A talking about the AR and how it's set up and what the buttons do and all this stuff. So if you took another AR class out of order, you wouldn't know what that button does, right? Mm-hmm. We have to show you this platform, what it does and why we recommend a certain setup. People say, I got an AR, what should I put on it? Well, my first question is going to be, what are you asking it to do? If your answer, because most people that take a class called POP, their answer is probably to protect people within short distances. Short distances, I call that 200 and in. All of a sudden, 200 and in, you're talking GRS, you're talking about bodyguard stuff. So I know exactly what that firearm is because I used it, and for real. So we got a 10.5-inch pistol primarily and a certain setup, and we explain why. Some people have never got in and out of a car with a rifle, right? If they did, it was in a case in the back. But if things were really bad or you needed it, it was an emergency, you'd get in the front seat with your rifle, and all of a sudden 16-inch barrel doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Especially when it's overkill for what you're asking that firearm to do. So going over the firearm, then the postures and how you hold it is a natural flow. That's a place to start. Then we get into ETB, which is Intro to AR Stress. So a lot of this, you're going to know kind of the pattern from your pistol. It's just a new capability. An AR platform offers a way higher capability than that pistol. So if somebody with equal skill shows up with an AR and you've got a pistol, you're outgunned. You're starting off at a huge deficit. So we're going to go over that. Then we go into the AR stress. The Intro to Stress shows you that stress course that tests many, many things. The second time you see that is going to be in 3C. We're going to practice that more and now be introduced into the AR 3 of 3. Again, that 9 rounds, 2 mag changes for time. And you're going to practice those because you got a test coming pretty soon, and we want to make sure that you're familiar with that challenge.
Yeah, when is a good time? So for me, 3A is the first time I saw an AR.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, this is interesting. Which end goes bang? So when is a good time to start asking? Because they're not inexpensive.
Right.
I had to save up some money. So what kind of lead time? Or do you have a recommendation?
We have recommendations. Again, what we require is safe. What we recommend is what's going to be most efficient for your performance in the program, right? So you go online, under gear, there's recommendations. It doesn't mean that's the only thing that's good. It just means we've had very good success with you can get as crazy as you want when you're spending money, right? And then I think there's a point of diminishing return where it's kind of like, this is bells and whistles and all that stuff. So if we're talking about something I would trust my life with, we've landed at like a Daniel Defense DD-M4, V7P. It just means it's a pistol version of an AR platform that is very reliable, and it's very modular, and it's light, and it just answers the mail on many different levels, and then we set it up a certain way. So there is a recommendations page for what most of us use.
And one thing I would offer up to you for testing, standardization, I would say, the pistol has to be a minimum of a 9mm caliber.
Correct.
And the rifle has to be .223 or .556 or greater.
Right. That's at Able Shepherd level.
Yep.
So if you come through and you want to practice, and we for example, we had a lady that had some wrist injuries. She could only use a 22. Awesome. We've got training for you too. You can come all the way through. You can actually rent one of mine. You can do our guns and you can do all that and go all the way through. But we really have to protect the Able Shepherd level because it is a standard. We're going to require 9mm or greater, 5.56 or greater, because you're saying you can do a thing and it's got to be the same test that you took a few years back.
Yep, testing consistency.
That's right. Yep. And again, at Able Shepherd, we're not just talking about skills, I'm talking about a capability. So there's certain gear you must own. You must own certain gear to own a capability before you're ever going to test for that coin, because holding that coin says a bigger deal. It says I can do this and I don't need to run to the store and buy gear.
And that was something very valuable when I got into like phase one. Obviously, the excitement level was through the roof. I think now there's a way we can charge a fee, but I gave Skip some money at the time to say, take me to the store, point and click. What do I need? What fits? What works? Yeah. But I would certainly recommend once you're in, you're going to know if you want to go down that road. Take the time with Jimmy, Parker, Skip, Eric, somebody, Todd, to understand what the choices are, what might fit differently.
We call that a concierge service. We do private lessons because some people want to do that private one-on-one. They just, perform better or they grow better on that one-on-one setting. And then we also have that concierge service where we're talking about gear and all that stuff. If you got questions, please ask. We love questions. I've been to courses where you ask a question that make fun of you, drop an F-bomb, make you look like an idiot in front of your wife. I don't know how they make money. I just don't know how people would come back. So keep going. That's job security for us, because when people meet us, they want to come back. They know their questions are welcome, and they know that one of the best compliments that I've ever heard was, I trust you with my wife and daughters.
Yep.
That's a big deal because I have a wife and daughters. So that landed well. Yeah. So that takes us to entries.
We're at entries.
So entries, we already did entries with pistol. Mm-hmm. It's actually the same class. So you might be at phase 3 with an AR, going through the simunition, engaging people, doing all that. In an entries class, someone next to you is in phase 2 and they have a pistol. Because they should be integrated. One has that phase 2 capability, one has the phase 3 capability, and you're going through and it's seamless. That's what uniform means, right? So it's really cool for the new guys to look over and see that dude's got an AR and he's right next to you and getting after it, and you're in sync, right? And then, it's cool for the guys that have the AR to kind of be like, yes, I do, whatever. And that other person's going through with a pistol. You're watching your muzzles, you're watching your distances, you're taking the right shots and doing all that. So I love the team aspect of that.
Yep. It's very interchangeable. That's what I've noticed over the years.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who you run with. You and I could go down the hallway there, and it would be effortless.
Yeah, well, and this is the thing about entries, that it's a longer conversation, but the more people you add, the easier it gets. People think it's be complex because you get more people. No, it's actually easier. The other night, we did this with 3 men, and then we did 4 men, and just for kicks, because we had some time, I go, everybody grab a gun. Some had pistols, some had other. 9 of you, go. Oh. Once you understand the fundamentals, all 9 of them burned through that house like nothing, and they came out giggling like little kids. Whoa, that was awesome. I was like, good job, guys. Feed the front. Get in there, find a job, and out on the other end, and you're out of rooms. You just cleared the house.
Did the role players run out screaming?
They thought it was the coolest thing ever.
No mas.
Our role players are awesome. Little hidey holes and jumping out in another room and coming out of curtains and stuff. It was good.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so we finished up phase 3. We took our 3 A, B, and C. We did our entries, and then there is what we call phase 3, like a pre-test to get you ready for the final Able Shepherd test. Like you explained earlier, the speeds decrease as you test out of each phase. So it gets harder.
Times decrease. You got to be a little faster, a little more accurate. Yep. Phase 3 test, we call that the Able Shepherd pretest. Mm-hmm. It's only the live fire, not the entries. Means I wouldn't test if I couldn't successfully pass those. Some people need to practice those a little bit more. Take that test. Once you pass that, your time, say you're ready to challenge the Able Shepherd test. So to drop the times a little bit quicker and then do your entries. And it's such a huge thing. This is funny because you would think, when people don't pass, they're not successful. There's so much support. There's so much you got it. And to make people nervous, and this is by design, when you're practicing and you're doing your drills, come on, Melissa, you got it. Hey, watch your slide. Check this. Check your finger. Check your stuff. On test day, silence.
Yes.
You got people behind you standing there, and people are like, they're all looking at me, and you get nervous and you can't shoot, right? And that's by design. You need to work through that uneasiness, and you need to tell those bullets where to go while moving at different postures, and you need to do it. You need to be able to repeat this standard, period. Because on test day, you need to perform. And let's say this too. This is all practice. If something happens out there, it's test day. You need to dial in and make that bullet go in the right spot. And that's what we're trying to replicate. A small scale trying to replicate that. And when people aren't successful, and then they aren't successful, when they are, it's a bigger deal. Yeah. It's almost the more they fail that test, when they pass it, there's a party that you could hear from down the street. Yep. People are screaming, sometimes there's tears, there's speeches. What's up, Perry Saul? Like all that. He's like, I'd like to thank all the little people. Just all of a sudden it's like there's a microphone that comes out of nowhere, and you're like, what just happened? But we love it. We love it.
Yeah, it's a well-deserved achievement once you do receive it.
And then the Able Shepherd test. So once you do that and challenge that test, this is so cool. Mine says 001. We just handed out 206. So if you're talking advanced training, I'll just call it black belt because we understand karate and all that stuff, at a high level, saying you are advanced. To have someone tell you, you are advanced in this thing, this skill that we do, you operate at an advanced level. Doesn't mean you're a cop, doesn't mean you're an operator or a SEAL or anything like that. It's just saying at the art of protecting people, you are advanced. So there are tears sometimes when these get handed out, right? And it's got our logo on it. It's got uniform, safe, and accurate. In God we trust. I love that we just did the new coin and we finally got 1 Peter 5:2-4, the scripture that calls us to be shepherds. And why? That's not something you lord over someone. You take care of people in the flock because you want to, not because you have to, and you are to shepherd them until the chief shepherd returns. So I love it. I love all of it. It's super cool, and I can't help but feel, and you guys feel it too, that we are doing this for a reason that's way bigger than us, for something we don't yet understand.
I get a lot of thank yous. Thank you for offering this. Thank you for bringing this program to a community and allowing us to come in and train. And it's like, I'm doing the right thing. Like, we're helping.
Oh yeah.
And people, it's sharing the passion. It's sharing, and we're so much. I always say there's so much more than just the training program. We're a community, and our community does so much more than just train.
Yeah.
From our mixes to this year we're tackling adventures.
8.
Yes. And so
fundraisers.
It just, the list goes on, and I'm just excited that I get to be along for this enormous ride. And
well, I got to tell you a story. I mean, you facilitated it. I was talking to my wife the other night. Somebody called with a need, say, hey, I need help. It happened to be with a vehicle. Will you help us? And I don't know. In 3 minutes, there were 7 or 8 volunteers. What day, what time, what do I bring? I'll bring the wrench, I'll bring the ice.
Yeah.
No questions asked. It's a community that's bending over backwards to help people within and outside the community as well.
Yeah.
Well, the story's about pretty recently that a call came in the middle of the night, I need oxygen.
Yeah.
And somebody got out of bed, picked up an O2 condenser, and drove it to somebody the doctor's closed, the store's closed, like they won't see you at the hospital because of certain reasons I'm not going to get into. And the community showed up, or the fire that recently happened, or the stuff over Christmas, or the widow we heard about, like all this stuff. It's like, on it.
Yep.
Got it. And it's amazing to be a part of it. When people say, thank you so much for doing this, and I'm like, 1, you're welcome. 2, who gets the most out of it?
We do.
It's amazing. My kids get to grow up in this.
Yep.
This is insane.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
So I think that wraps up the phase portion of the Able Shepherd program, from the beginning to the end.
What's in it? Can we just take a couple minutes and talk about what's coming?
Oh, there's so much coming.
I don't even know where to start.
List.
I know.
It's like
Nick left for 2 weeks?
Yep.
And he comes back and I'm like, brother, I don't even know where to start. because there's so much going on.
There is a lot going on.
Just pick one.
Yeah, okay.
February 26th?
February 26th. Oh, boy. Okay, so a lot of announcements have gone out. We have our Defend the Flock. It is our Q1 event. We did this back in 2019. Same event at a different church. We are bringing it back. We are doing it down in a Grace.
We were at Grace Chapel, the first one.
No,
Now
this
we're going
one
to
is Vista Grande in Colorado Springs. We're heading down there, and we're going to run the Defend the Flock. Now, can you explain a little bit about what that entails? For the
It's huge in that the year that we did it,
Yeah.
19, is that right? 2019 we did it, and we think it bothers us that certain things are not understood on the protector level. Okay, and I want to be delicate with this one because we didn't air that for a span of time out of respect. There's a gentleman in Arvada that responded to an active shooter. A police officer was called and ambushed and murdered. Then was shooting up the car, went to exchange guns, and a good Samaritan showed up, and he told everybody stay down. He engaged the shooter, and it was a hero. He is a hero, right? Then he walked over in that moment of excitement, secured the AR, holstered. That's when the cops showed up, and then he was killed, right? Wow. So it's not the police's fault because their job is to respond, and they have an image in their head of what they're going to see, and they saw it. Big misunderstanding because of lack of training on both sides. And I'm just going to, I'm sorry. I don't want to say that they made a mistake, but I'm saying that there is a lack of training on both sides. We need to understand that we are on the same team as officers. If I want people to live and bad guys want people to die, then we are on the same team. And when you show up, there's a way to deconflict this, and now I'm done and you do your job. If you're not there, I must protect my children. But once you're there, I'm going to turn that duty over to you to take over this clearance of the school, let's say, right? But that gets skipped. And then people don't know how to do what we call deconfliction or reunification. That exists on the level I've worked, that exists. But people aren't in the industry of protection, they're in law enforcement. So we teach law enforcement this. We taught that class. Those skills could have potentially saved a life. So it bothers us, we need to do more of this. I just taught this class tonight, actually. So we were in here, the guys were in here, and we did this. And how do you deconflict good guys with good guys so there is no conflict, so we don't meet each other in a corner and kill each other, right? So that's a big deal. It was a hugely successful event. Now we're doing it again, and it sold out the first day, I think.
I know,
so
under
it's
24
fantastic.
hours, it was sold out. So, yeah, we're super excited. So we'll be heading down to the Springs on February 26th. We have our Q1 adventure. We are heading out to Kiowa Creek Sporting Clays.
On March 26th.
That's on March 26th. That was great planning on my part. Easy days to remember.
Everything's 26 every day.
Yeah, keep it over 26.
So 8 adventures, right, this year?
And
the adventures aren't part of
the 4 adventures. Yeah.
It's part of Able Shepherd, but it's not the curriculum. What we found, and this, I just want to talk about this for a second. When we go on an adventure, so BK, when we jump on motorcycles and we go ride around for 4,500 miles, 5,000 miles, right? And you come back, everybody here was glued together tighter. And then we do it again, tighter. We do it again, tighter. So we said, you know what? There's something here that we can't miss. I want to pursue hearts. I want to pull people into the fold using adventure. So this year we said we're doing it. We're doing it 8 times this year, and put on 4 based around hunting, education on hunting, finishing with a hunt, and then 4 more based on let's just get together and do cool stuff, right?
So Q1 is a shotgun sporting clays. Q2, I believe, is a camping trip being organized by
What's
Chris
up, Otto?
Otto.
Thank you, brother. He's heading that up.
Q3.
Wyoming BDR.
Oh, I just love the sound of that.
And Q4
is
a hunt. Yeah. It's going to be a group hunt. So there's actually another one on the hunt. So the hunting ones are going over the licensing and the point system and all that stuff and getting your stuff into a draw-in before April, right? So you beat that time frame. Then it's going to be going over gear and all that stuff. Then it's going to be a hike with the gear on.
There's the sight in too.
And then the sight in. And then a sight in to get the rifle sighted in. And then finishing it with that Q4 doing the hunt. So that's fantastic.
Okay, so more exciting news is coming. Jimmy, we were approached with this new school design. And I'll tell you, I think I got a few more gray hairs. But at the same time, it was this great adventure. And I add more to my resume. But we are so blessed to be given this opportunity. So can you tell us a little bit more?
Man, we could probably write a book about all that. Like I always wonder, is Melissa going to stab me in the eye, or is this somehow we keep doing this stuff? I keep making messes. You guys clean them up, and that's how we get down the field. It's insane. We got an amazing team. So thank you for all your work with this. But I know that proposal was a little bit involved.
Yes.
But we had an opportunity years ago. I drew on a napkin. That's how this started. I remember, what are schools going to look like in the future? Because I see the trajectory here, and I believe it's the community's responsibility. For example, we taught the world, again, reminded them, it's my responsibility to protect my kids. I pay taxes, so there's professionals that some of that money goes towards so I can go to work and they can help me protect my kids, but it's my responsibility. It's my responsibility to educate my kids. Now I pay taxes and we can hire professionals and teachers can help me educate my kids, but it's on me. It's ultimately on me. So if they're not teaching them the right thing or if they're countering my values, they're fired. Find a new school, find a new whatever, teach myself. So all of that stuff comes with this responsibility, and I truly believe that it's on the communities. There's not enough police in the world to protect all the kids, but there's enough communities to chip in and do this. So I drew up what would a school look like, very professional, very clean, very whatever, city park, doesn't look like a prison, with a 30-second guaranteed response time in case of an emergency. And I showed it to some politicians, some potential investors. And at first they go, yeah, what's that going to cost? It's actually free. Once you build it, the actual security is free because it's built into the structure. It's a covenant agreement. And these are businesses. This is a school. The kids play within a courtyard. And they're never seen from the street. And if there's an emergency, the community protects that venue. Mm-hmm. Then they started saying that would work. So I've talked to, we have many contracts with whoever, schools and churches and civic groups and all this stuff. And they like the idea of that community, but they're not sure. Then we show them and they go, there's something here. So there's an organization that we showed this to. They were talking more on the curriculum side. What does curriculum look like? If this is the wrong curriculum, what's the right? These are particularly Christian schools that are launching a model for the nation. So we crossed paths and then you fast forward and they offered a position for directing this, to start one, get it going. This will be in Texas. Down in Texas, there'll be a little bit of travel involved, but then we'll be managing them. Like, how do these get managed from Denver? Like, I will be the director over all the directors from here and help schools be more safe in the future. So that's a huge opportunity that we're really looking forward to because we already do it.
Yeah.
Yes,
right?
we do.
So, and I even told the guys in tonight, you guys are I don't call you this because it's not very flattering. You're my guinea pigs. Every day we do a class, we figure out more. We learn more and we move that needle. So this isn't Jimmy doing it. This community is learning more. I say, when you do something full time, you learn. It's exponential, right? Because you do it all the time. It's not a hobby for us. This is what we do. Mm-hmm. The new association.
Yes.
So back on if this is the wrong way, I'm sick of hearing people saying, well, this is wrong and this is wrong and this is wrong. Okay, well, what's right? That we did the last podcast, model what's right. So instead of just complaining about what's wrong, let's model what's right. So that led to another thought process is a lot of times there's conversations about protection, about this industry, about all that stuff. Where do you go to get your truth? Where do you go to get a one-stop shop on this industry? And I couldn't find it. Now, there's some good stuff out there, but it's piecemealed. I'm like, you're really close, and that's not even right. That's actually dangerous. That's garbage. You go through all this stuff, then what is right? So what I did is I contacted some subject matter experts, legit subject matter experts in different fields, and said, would you meet once a month? So now we are starting this. Had a meeting today to kind of finalize it, and everybody's in. So every time that group meets, the truth will go out to the world. So we're not protecting a school, we're protecting all schools. Not a church, all churches. Not a child, all children, right? Because if you're getting this information, you can apply it to what you've got and make it better. This community doesn't share well. It's like, I got stuff and I'm cool, and if I tell you then you're cool, then I'm less cool. It just doesn't work, right? That's a problem in the industry. So we're going to start approaching with that spirit of abundance, saying we're going to start giving you guys free information to make you better. Use it, not use it, but it is true and I can prove it. Right? So we're going to start that association to have accreditations and let people learn this and get that credential next to their name or their school or their church or whatever. And then literally having people funnel into Denver and taking this goodness that we're growing back home with them and making their kids safe.
Good.
Good stuff.
Isn't that fun? How cool is that? Like we get to do this. Mm-hmm. And it's like it's a kind of a thing. We text each other. We'll do something cool and I just text and I'm like, God sees us. You guys feeling this? Like, God sees us. He's looking at us right now.
Awesome. Well, I don't have anything else.
Cool. Final thoughts, BK?
Boy, I got to tell you, knowing where this training program came from, the mind of Jimmy Graham, had an interesting experience Saturday during my recall when I come out from doing entries, and there's a, SWAT team representative watching what I just did for the last 3 hours.
Oh, yeah.
And to say they were impressed is underselling it. Like, this is the real deal. These guys are good at what they do. And almost, I can't put words in this person's mouth, but a sense of relief knowing if he had to come into a building and we were there, it'd be okay. I got goosebumps talking about it. It was a really neat experience. Saturday. Yeah.
That's awesome. And when this started, when I started in this industry, there was very much this going on. Yeah. You're not the hero, I'm the hero. That kind of thing. That's changed. The world changed, and to have a police officer buddy go, keep doing what you're doing, because at the rate you're training people with that kind of quality and the rate the world is going, these guys are going to save lives. Yep. It's like, I feel it. It's good to know they're out there. And they're the kind of people to where, like, if an officer needed assistance, they would help. And they wouldn't try to take your job and jump in and be an ambulance chaser, but they wouldn't let that happen in front of them. You know what I mean? And it's good to know sometimes that that's out there. And not only would we physically stand with police, we support good law enforcement. I have to say it, and I have to say that. We support good law enforcement. I know there's bad guys. There's bad apples in the SEAL teams. There's bad apples in everywhere. But if you're doing this right, we support you. Yep. And we don't just say that. We actually back it up, and we raise money, and we teach, and we do all this other stuff. So it's cool to have somebody say, to come in and watch. We have VIPs in here all the time. And that's the only thing that we really ask is come take a look. We can help in this conversation. And if you're good on your side, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about on the civilian side. People need to understand how this works. So there's no what we call blue on blue. So good guys aren't shooting good guys accidentally in crossfire and all this other stuff. This is a safety thing, and protection is a different animal. So let's go ahead and start looking at it. Join me on that catwalk as a VIP and just take a look. Because once you meet us, everything's different. It all changes. They're like, I didn't expect this. We're like, I know. Neither did we, to be completely honest.
And thank you for all you do, because you keep this shit running.
Oh, man. Wheels on the bus. Keeping the wheels on the bus. So we appreciate it. So, all right, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap that up. That was a good one. That's going to, part one, part two?
Dealer's choice.
Okay, that's on you, brother. So he'll decide. We'll get it out there. We knew we were going to cover some ground. We didn't think it'd be this long, but it is good stuff. Like, I think if you can't tell, it's coming out of us for a time, so such a time as this. This is exactly what I was built for, and I love doing it. I love that there's families involved. I love that the people I get to work with. I love that we're constantly learning and growing. I love that we're watching technology and as it changes and we're adapting ourselves. And I love that good people walk in those doors and they leave here better, even if it's for 20 minutes and they say, this feels like home to me. Yep. And we say, welcome home, boys. That's how we get to do this. So anyways, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Check us out. Please follow us on Facebook. Yes, they haven't kicked us off yet, so we appreciate that. So it's on Abel Shepherd, my personal one. It says Jimmy Graham. AbelShepherd.com is going to be more information on everything we talked about it. As Melissa talked about, able-nation.org. What's up, Sage? Reach out to Neil. We wanted to make sure that we can't afford it is not a thing if you're talking about your security, your medical stuff for your church and your school. If you're protecting children and budget's an issue, contact Neil at able-nation.org. Really easy application. Might be able to help you out there. And then Stand in the Gap Initiative. We haven't talked about that in a little bit. That's what's rebirthing this new association, by the way. A lot of free resources at standinthegapinitiative.com. So till we see you guys again, we're going to wrap it up. God bless each and every one of you. Take care of one another.